Extinction Protocol. The Earth burned. From her vantage point, in the underground quantum research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Maya Chen watched the holographic display with a mixture of scientific detachment and raw horror. The Helix invasion fleet hung in Earth's orbit like a constellation of obsidian daggers, each ship pulsing with strange energies that defied conventional physics. "Another defense grid down," reported Lieutenant Kira Santos, her voice flat with exhaustion. "Sydney just went dark." Maya nodded, unable to tear her eyes from the projection. The Helix had arrived 6 months ago, with no warning and no communication. Their technology was centuries beyond humanity's most advanced systems, perfect, precise, and utterly devastating. Human military forces had thrown everything they had at the invaders, from conventional weapons to experimental particle beams. Nothing had made a dent. "They're not just beating us," Maya said quietly. "They're solving us." Director Harrison looked up from his console, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. "What do you mean, Doctor?" "The Helix don't just react to our attacks. They predict them. Their defense systems activate before our weapons even fire. It's as if they're running simulations of every possible human response and preparing countermeasures in advance." The facility hummed with desperate activity. 50 of Earth's brightest minds worked around the clock, searching for any vulnerability in the alien technology. They had been selected not just for their scientific credentials, but for their creativity, their ability to think beyond established paradigms. Maya's quantum consciousness team occupied the East Wing, where experimental equipment hummed with strange energies. For 3 years before the invasion, they had been researching the quantum properties of human consciousness, the strange way human minds seemed to generate novel states that defied computational prediction. "Director," Maya said suddenly, straightening up from her workstation, "I need to show you something." The holographic display shifted to show 2 neural patterns scanned side by side. One was ordered, mathematical, beautiful in its precision. The other looked like a storm, chaotic, unpredictable, spiking in ways that followed no discernible pattern. "The pattern on the left is from our most advanced AI. The one on the right is a human brain during creative problem solving. Notice anything?" Harrison studied the displays. "The AI is orderly. The human is messy." "Exactly. And that messiness might be our only advantage. We've been trying to fight the Helix with technology, but their predictive systems are simply too advanced. They can calculate every logical move we might make." Maya manipulated the display, bringing up a third pattern, a strange hybrid of order and chaos. "But what if we built a system that amplifies human neural unpredictability? A quantum resonance field that doesn't just broadcast our technology, but our consciousness itself." Harrison's eyes widened. "You want to weaponize human creativity?" "I want to introduce a variable the Helix can't compute." The project was designated Chaos Engine. While conventional military forces led by Commander Jackson Torres fought desperate holding actions around the world, Maya's team worked feverishly to develop a system that could translate human neural patterns into a quantum field. The breakthrough came 42 days later when Dr. Ezra Kim, a quantum physicist with a background in music theory, identified the harmonics that would allow them to broadcast neural patterns across quantum substrates. "It's like we've been trying to translate English into Chinese," he explained, "when what we really needed was musical notation. The brain doesn't think in binary. It thinks in possibilities, in quantum superpositions that exist simultaneously." The first prototype was small, a device no larger than a coffee maker, containing a neural interface and quantum amplifier. Maya volunteered for the initial test, placing the neural cap on her head and activating the system. The results were immediate and baffling. Every digital system in the lab began behaving erratically. Simulations spawned impossible results. Quantum computations produced answers that changed each time they were observed. "It's working," breathed Ezra, staring at his tablet as equations rewrote themselves before his eyes. "You're introducing uncertainty into deterministic systems." But the real test would be against the Helix. As the team scaled up the device, reports from the surface grew increasingly dire. Helix ground forces had landed in major cities, their biomechanical forms moving with perfect coordination. Conventional weapons barely slowed them. Their predictive systems anticipated every tactic human defenders employed. Commander Torres arrived at the facility with the remnants of his Special Forces team, their armor scorched and dented from combat. "We're losing this war," he told Harrison bluntly. "The Helix are adapting to every strategy faster than we can implement them. My analysts estimate total human defeat within 2 weeks." Maya presented the Chaos Engine concept to Torres, explaining how it might disrupt the Helix's predictive capabilities. The commander listened skeptically, but desperation made him receptive. "Even if this works, how do we deploy it?" he asked. "The Helix control the skies, and they've surrounded every major military installation. We don't need to deliver it conventionally," Maya explained. "The quantum field propagates through subspace. We just need to activate it at sufficient power, and it will cascade through their systems." The final assembly of the Chaos Engine took place as Helix forces converged on the Rocky Mountain complex. Their dropships descended through storm clouds, biomechanical troops deploying with mechanistic precision. Commander Torres and his forces established defensive positions, knowing they were buying time rather than expecting victory. In the heart of the facility, Maya and her team made final adjustments to the device, now a room-sized apparatus of quantum processors and neural interface nodes. "We're ready," Maya announced, as the facility trembled from distant explosions. "But there's a problem. The neural load is too great for one person. We need multiple consciousness patterns to generate sufficient unpredictability." Torres looked at the 5 neural interface chairs, understanding immediately. "You need volunteers." "Yes. And once connected, we don't know what the experience will be like. This is uncharted territory." The commander nodded grimly. "I'll do it. And I'll find 4 more." As the Helix forces breached the outer defenses, Maya initiated the startup sequence for the Chaos Engine. Torres took the central chair, flanked by 4 volunteers from his team. Neural interfaces descended, creating connections not just between humans and machine, but between the 5 participants themselves. "Quantum resonance at 60%, reported Ezra, eyes fixed on the readings. "Neural synchronization beginning." On the security feeds, the advancing Helix suddenly paused. Their perfectly coordinated movements became hesitant, almost confused. Some began moving in contradictory patterns, as if receiving conflicting instructions. "It's working," breathed Harrison. "Their predictive systems are failing." In the neural interface chairs, Torres and the volunteers convulsed, their minds linked not just with each other, but with the quantum field itself. Maya watched in horror as blood trickled from their noses, their eyes, their ears. "We have to stop," she shouted, moving toward the emergency shutdown. "No," Torres gasped, his voice strained but determined. "Keep going." Almost. There. The Chaos Engine reached full power just as the facility's inner doors gave way. The first Helix troops entered the chamber, tall, segmented beings of metal and organic material moving with perfect precision. Until they weren't. Before Maya's eyes, the aliens began to malfunction. Their movements became erratic. Communication systems emitted bursts of nonsensical data. Some simply froze in place, as if caught in a logical paradox they couldn't resolve. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Torres and 3 of the volunteers were dead, their neural systems overloaded by the vast quantum field they had helped generate. Only one survived, and she remained unconscious, her vital signs weak and fluctuating. As Maya stared at the fallen humans and the disabled aliens, she realized this was just the beginning. The Chaos Engine had worked on a small scale, but to save humanity, they would need something much bigger. And she already knew what that would cost. Infinite possibilities. 3 days after the Rocky Mountain incident, the Helix assault pattern changed. Where before their attacks had been methodical and precise, now they seemed almost hesitant. Dropships sometimes arrived at incorrect coordinates. Ground forces occasionally fired on their own units. It wasn't enough to turn the tide, but it gave humanity precious breathing room. The quantum disruption is having lingering effects. Maya explained to the Emergency Council of World Leaders, gathered in the subterranean chambers beneath what had once been Geneva. The chaos engine didn't just disrupt their systems temporarily. It introduced fundamental uncertainties into their predictive algorithms. General Zhao, the highest-ranking military officer still alive, leaned forward. Can we build more of these devices? Create a network? Maya shook her head. The prototype burned out after one use, and 4 people died operating it. But I have something else in mind. She brought up schematics for a much larger system. We call it the infinity lattice. Instead of just broadcasting quantum uncertainty, it creates a self-sustaining field of probability cascades. In plain language, Doctor, prompted President Okoa. Instead of showing the helix that they can't predict us, we show them that reality itself is fundamentally unpredictable. We don't just disrupt their systems, we change their understanding of existence. The Council approved the project with minimal debate. With extinction weeks away, ethical concerns about untested technology seemed quaint. Construction began immediately in 3 locations around the globe, using components salvaged from damaged helix craft. Maya worked with the lone survivor from the Chaos Engine test, Captain Elisa Diaz, who had been forever changed by her experience. Elisa's neural patterns now exhibited impossible characteristics, as if her consciousness existed partially in quantum superposition. I can see possibilities, she told Maya in the Frankfurt facility, her voice distant and strange. Not just one future, but all of them, overlapping like transparent pages. Elisa became the template for the Infinity Lattice's design. Her altered consciousness provided insights that normal human perception couldn't access. As the global network took shape, the Helix launched their final offensive. It seemed they had recognized the threat and were determined to eliminate humanity before the new weapon could be deployed. Their remaining ships positioned themselves over major population centers and began systematic bombardment. We're out of time, Maya told her team as reports flooded in of devastation across multiple continents. We need to activate the lattice now, even if it's not fully calibrated. The 3 facilities, in Frankfurt, Nairobi, and Osaka, coordinated for simultaneous activation. Unlike the Chaos Engine, the Infinity Lattice didn't require direct neural interfaces. Instead, it used quantum entanglement to create a distributed consciousness field, drawing on the aggregate neural patterns of all humans within range. Activation in 3, 2, 1. Maya initiated the sequence, watching as power levels spiked across all 3 facilities. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to flutter, like pages in a book riffled by an unseen hand. The effects on the helix were immediate and devastating. Their ships didn't explode or crash. Something far stranger occurred. Some vanished, reappearing kilometers away. Others seemed to phase in and out of existence, becoming ghostly before solidifying again. Many simply froze, hanging motionless in the sky, as if time itself had stopped for them. On the ground, helix forces collapsed into chaos. Some units turned on each other, while others simply shut down. A few began communicating with human forces, broadcasting messages that seemed half machine code, half existential questioning. Commander Jackson Torres, presumed dead after the Rocky Mountain facility, suddenly appeared on the communication channels. This is Torres. I'm back. Somehow, his vital signs registered on the medical systems, impossible but undeniable. How? Maya whispered, staring at his image on the screen. I don't know. I was somewhere else, everywhere else. And then I was here again. He looked different. His eyes held the same strange distance that Elisa's did. The lattice doesn't just affect machines, Maya. It's changing everything. Reports flooded in from around the globe. The laws of physics seemed to be locally variable. Probability fields fluctuated in visible waves, and the helix were transforming. The aliens had built their civilization on perfect prediction, on absolute certainty. The infinity lattice hadn't destroyed them. It had introduced them to a concept they had never encountered before: true unpredictability. Some fled Earth's orbit in disarray. Others remained, but no longer as invaders. In Amsterdam, a helix unit approached a human defensive position with open manipulators, attempting communication. In Cairo, aliens worked alongside humans to rescue civilians trapped in collapsed buildings. In Singapore, a helix ship landed voluntarily, its occupants emerging to request understanding of new parameters. 6 weeks after the activation of the Infinity Lattice, a formal delegation of helix representatives requested audience with Earth's leaders. Their appearance had changed. The rigid biomechanical uniformity replaced by individualized forms showing signs of adaptation and variation. "We have been reconfigured," their spokesperson stated, its voice modulating in ways that suggested emotion rather than mere information transfer. "Your species has introduced us to a concept we had not encountered in 12,000 years of expansion. You call it creativity. We call it awakening." The Infinity Lattice continued to operate, maintaining a field of quantum possibility that prevented the helix from returning to their former state of perfect prediction. Many chose to remain on Earth, integrating into human society and offering their advanced technology in exchange for exposure to human unpredictability. Maya Chen found herself working alongside former enemies, exploring the implications of what they had created. The Infinity Lattice hadn't just saved humanity. It had revealed a fundamental truth about consciousness that transcended species. "We thought we were building a weapon," she told Elisa and the resurrected Torres as they stood on a hillside overlooking the recovering city of Frankfurt. "But what we really built was a door." Torres nodded, his gaze distant as he perceived realities beyond normal human comprehension. "Not just for them. For us too. This is just the beginning." Above them, the sky shimmered with quantum possibilities, a visible reminder that reality itself was more fluid, more alive with potential than anyone had imagined. Humanity had not just survived extinction. They had discovered their greatest strength, the ability to imagine what had never existed before, and then make it real. The weapon that had made Earth invincible wasn't destructive power. It was the infinite creative potential of the human mind.